Hey, everybody, this is Rob Smith from the Body Project Studio. And tonight I want to continue talking about the pyramid of optimal physical performance. And I want to actually talk a little bit about footwear. I want to talk a little bit about balance. But if we take a look at the pyramid, and I'll bring that up a little bit more, I want you guys to pay attention to my quote here. And the quote is, foundational principles may not excite you, but by following them consistently, you'll be excited at the changes you see and feel in your body. And I think it's very important to understand that when it comes to exercise today, what we're finding is more and more people are actually just going through the motions, and they're not paying attention to the integral components of what it takes to really optimize functionality within the human body. Now, why that's so important is as you age, we want to make sure you have a pain-free, vibrant, energetic body. It doesn't matter how good your cardiovascular fitness is. It doesn't matter how lean you are if you're in constant orthopedic pain. So your neck hurts, your shoulder hurts, your back hurts, your knees hurt. We want to make sure we take a look at your body holistically. And when you actually look at your body holistically and your focus is on the fundamental foundational principles, you cannot go wrong. It is just so important. So let's talk about tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about balance. But before we even talk about balance, I want to just kind of walk you through the optimal footwear when it comes to exercise. So I'm going to show you a few pairs of shoes here. And the first shoe here I have is my wife's. She uses this shoe for walking. Now, this shoe right here is absolutely positively the worst shoe you could actually wear for strength training. And the reason why is this thick cushion sole inhibits the messaging from your brain to we have mechanoreceptors on the bottom of our feet. So we have them in our hands and our feet. And these tiny sensory organs basically communicate with our brain to tell us where we are in space. So it helps us with coordination. It helps us with balance. And then it helps us with that proprioception. And the proprioception, all that means is just where are we in space. So if you're squatting or you're lunging in a shoe like this, you're not getting good connection with the earth, and it's inhibiting that messaging. Now, one of the worst things that I see is with an aging population, as a person gets older, they tend to choose a thicker sole shoe. And what happens is that messaging system is becoming more and more retarded as we age. If we don't control our blood sugar, that system actually goes downhill even faster, coupled with a thick cushion shoe. And this is what leads to so many people falling as they get older. So I'm going to show you a difference in my wife's shoes. So here's her strength training shoe. This is like a New Balance Minimus. You can see a very, very, if you take a look at the sole in comparison, a very small, thin sole, a much better shoe for strength training. And then if you look at my shoe that I use a lot of times for strength training, this real thick, dense sole, but it's a really, really nice flat sole surface. So I get really good messaging, and I wouldn't even attempt certain exercises in the gym if I didn't have a good strength training shoe like this. And so it's important to understand that if you are doing strength training, the flatter the sole shoe, the better. So the old canvas Converse or, like a minimus sole like this, a weightlifting shoe, like the old, not only the Converse Canvas, but also like the Vans or like a skateboarding shoe. Another thing too is whenever you can, it's nice to do barefoot training because you really enhance that proprioceptive activity. You really get great connection clearly with the earth, and it really helps with the coordination and balance. So make sure when you are selecting shoes, you determine what purpose those shoes are going to be, and don't necessarily rely on someone who's selling you the shoes, because who knows what their level of knowledge is. It's better to seek out someone like a movement specialist and say, hey, what's the best strength training shoe for me? What's the best shoe if I'm going to do a lot of walking or I'm going to do some running? And then they can steer you in the right direction. And when it comes to exercising, again, if we take a look at all the variables that go into exercising intelligently, there's a lot to think about. There's a lot to know. And that's why it's important to find someone that you can really trust in, depend in, and make sure you bounce some of these ideas off them just to determine exactly what your needs are, because everybody's needs are a little bit different. A lot of times people will talk to me, well, I've got really flat feet and I need that extra support. Well, the first thing we have to do is we have to ask ourselves the question, why do you have flat feet? Why have you lost that arch? And so we can work on the bottom of the foot during doing certain myofascial techniques. So we can, use a lacrosse ball on the bottom sole of your foot. We can actually do some manual work on the bottom of your foot. We can work the muscles that surround your foot to strengthen those muscles. And so we don't want to just use Band-Aids on things. Well, this is a really good supportive shoe. Now, we can use a good supportive shoe as we fix the dysfunction, but don't just do a workaround dysfunction just because it feels better. Identify, hey, what's creating this dysfunction? What's creating this pain? Let's ask ourselves better questions, get to the bottom of it, evaluate the root cause, and then create a strategy to fix it. So I have talked about a little bit in the past about, working out on machines and why training on machines exclusively is not a good idea. And the other day when I was hiking, I put together a little video on kind of the difference between transferring over to, life. You go from the gym to life. What training methodology, what techniques, what exercises are going to give you the best carryover to what you do in life? And that's whether you're working or you're playing, however you're moving. It's important that there's a correlation between how you train and then what you enjoy to do in life. And for me, one of the big things I love to do is hike. And so I have to make sure that I'm doing things that will facilitate and foster the things I love to do. And so I train in a functional manner. And what I mean by that is I make sure I'm following the pyramid. So I'm squatting, I'm bending, I'm pushing, I'm pulling, I'm working on my balance, I'm working on my coordination. And sometimes you just have to act like a kid. And if we look at just examining a kid on a playground, it's amazing to watch kids and what they do. They're running and they're jumping and they're twisting and they're bending, but they're doing it in a way that the human body is designed to function in. We start to gravitate away from that gameplay. We gravitate away from how our bodies are designed to function, and we get sucked into all the fads, what's the newest and the latest and the greatest. And consequently, what happens is it starts to create more dysfunction in the body. So I talk a little bit about the difference in, exercising for getting out in nature and how we can actually transfer that. So here's the video. Hopefully you enjoy the video. Hey everybody, this is Rob Smith with The Body Project, and a few videos ago I actually talked about exercising exclusively on machines and the detriments of doing that exclusively. You know, one of the favorite things in the world for me to do is to be out in nature and hike. And when you are out in terrain such as this, what happens is you are really stimulating your reflexes, called the righting and tilting reflexes. And so it works on your coordination, your balance, something called proprioception. But we have to know where we are in space, and we have to challenge those systems. And so if you're in the gym and you're training exclusively on machines, and because you're on that fixed axis, you're on a rail system, you're not challenging those systems. And if you take a look at the other side of the coin, if you're doing more functional training, like you're squatting and you're bending and you're pushing and you're pulling and you're lunging, using free weights or medicine balls, stability balls, TRXs, even your body weight, now you start challenging those systems. And by challenging those systems, what happens is we have a great carryover to now getting out in nature and having better balance, having better coordination by really challenging those righting and tilting reflexes. So make sure when you're exercising, you're not training exclusively on machines. Do more functional training. And the first three letters in the word functional is FUN. It's a lot more fun. So there's my tip of the day. Until I see you again, go out and make it a great day. You certainly deserve it. If you learned anything in the video, please go ahead and like the video, share the video with maybe a friend or family member who might be able to benefit from the information. And until I see you later, be well.